Rage, whether in reaction to social injustice or to our leaders' insanity, or to those who threaten to harm us, is a powerful energy that, with diligent practice, can be transformed into fierce compassion. Bonnie Mayotte Treese.
Good morning, everybody. Well, for me, this is really awkward because I don't give speeches. And Ms. Irvin was just asking me how I felt, and I tell her I'm just, sweating, crying, and pooping because. Over the last few weeks, I've thought a lot about what I was going to say here. I've had negative and pessimistic thoughts like, what could I possibly share with these people? Or what can I say that hasn't already been said? When I keep asking people what I should say, everyone replied with, well, share something about yourself, something personal. Well, that's easier said than done. It took me a long time of self-reflection and pensive thought to come up with what to say. But each time there was always one thing in the back of my mind. One thing I tried to circumvent because perhaps it was too generic or too personal. But no matter how much I avoided it, every scenario of a speech that played in my mind always came back to one topic, one story, my story. Growing up, I would say I belonged to a lot of minority and social groups. There was always a struggle to reconcile the various anomalies that made up my identity. Growing up in a surprisingly predominantly white neighborhood in Rwanda, and being one of the only 4 people of color at my old school, always put me at odds. I was always that kid that tried so hard to fit in to these crowds, but stuck out like a sore thumb. I would not speak my mind of a lot of issues I was passionate about, so I wouldn't offend the base, or be the outlier in my friend group. I was that kid who sat through a lot of homophobic and hateful slander and condoned this type of behavior, so as not to be that kid everybody hates, so I just kept up with this charade and kept my obvious outrage and opinions to myself. I was that kid who sat through a lot of slut-shaming and nasty fat-shaming jokes. Even when they're not guided towards me, I would laugh it out like a good joke. I was that kid who had so many questions about the Bible, Jesus, religion, the church, but couldn't ask them so as not to offend the pastor or my uber-Christian family. So I kept my opinions and various thoughts to myself, about the hypocrisy of the church to myself, again, to be the dutiful Christian boy everyone loves. I had so many opinions that I needed to express, that needed to be heard. I was the feminist who grew up in a misogynistic society. I was the non-religious kid in a very religious, homogeneous society. I was the pro-choice guy who lived in a very, very pro-life neighborhood. Pro-choice was definitely not even heard of. I was the fierce defender of LGBTQ rights in a very homophobic community. All these opinions just kind of built up and were just stored inside of me. So the question you must be wondering, how did I manage to become the outspoken individual you see standing here in front of you? Well, I met a girl. Not in the way you're thinking, but in a way that changed me completely. When I met Ines, she was a survivor of sexual assault. She was somebody who suffered a great injustice. She was raped by someone close to her, and she chose to come out about it and brought charges against her assailant. From start to finish, she was ridiculed, she slut-shamed by her entire community, but she didn't back down. She went to court and testified. However, her silence was found not guilty on any count, and she was further shamed. Her parents were concerned that through all this, she had not shed a single tear. And after the court, she went back to school and resumed her normal life, as if nothing had ever happened. She was just 14, and she was the strongest individual I had ever encountered in my brief life. Her strength and resilience were the most inspiring things I had ever seen. Despite the odds being against her, and literally everybody in her community, she chose to speak up, to tell her truth. And even after the wheels of injustice turned against her, she took solace in knowing that she spoke up, and that gave her the strength to move on. After this, my first thought was, wow, I have such first world problems. And then my second thought was, Landry, what the hell are you doing with your life? Your odds couldn't be nearly as bad, but you choose to be a coward. You should get it together and tell your truth. After a while of reflection and finding myself, I started speaking my truth. And that started by telling myself my truth, by acknowledging and embracing the intersectionality of my identity. Then by telling the truth to those around me. I grilled the pastor with the hard questions. I told the homophobes to shove it up their behinds. I changed a few minds about a woman's choice to her body. I spoke about back issues that I was very afraid of bringing up. I told fat shamers and slut shamers to stop the jokes and recognize the insensitivity. Then I decided to take up the role of speaking to power, criticizing the construct and validity of rules that affected those around me. Anybody who knows me knows well that I always have so much to say when it comes to politics and justice, and I believe it is no longer acceptable to allow bullying, sexism, homophobia, insensitivity, racism, and I believe in standing up and being vocal about this. I have this thing in my mind where I visualize myself to be a titan, and everybody around me, everybody who affects the people I love or the people around me, are tiny mundanes, and my superpower lies in my ability to speak up against them. So my message to you today is simple. Be a titan. Stand up to bullies. Stand up to leaders. Be a voice for those who can't speak up for themselves. Spread compassion and be a force for change and good. Today is filled with uncertainty. In my life, I'm uncertain about a lot of things. I'm uncertain about the future. I am uncertain about who I want to become one day. I am uncertain about where I'm going to go for college. Hell, I'm even uncertain whether I'll make it through the speech. I am uncertain about parts of my life, and that's okay. There are a few things I'm certain about. I am certain that I am a titan. I am certain about my passions. I am certain about my commitment to social justice. I am certain that I can make change. No matter what kind of occupation or what continent, what people, what society I'll end up in, I am certain about my commitment to social justice. Again, be a titan. This school's passionate commitment to social justice is a quality every one of you should be proud of. Young people rising up against injustice has been a force for change so many times in history. In life, people can take so much from you. They can take your pride, they can take your liberties, and they can halt all your progress. But I am sure about one thing, they can never take away your ability to speak up. Seize your right to speak truth to power, and know that there is great power in speaking truth. It is important to acknowledge that there are people who don't have the privilege, the opportunity, the security, or the courage to speak up and take on the world. Take all the opportunities to be a titan and speak up. Speaking up inspires everyone else who is perhaps afraid of speaking up. Your voice can embolden people who wouldn't dare otherwise speak up. Just as Ines inspired me to speak up today, and every other day of my life since I met her. It is always imperative to remember when you speak up, there is a world always ready to listen. One thing to remember is that sometimes, to call upon people's better selves, you have to show them yours. And no matter where you go, who you meet, and what you become, I will say this to you. Be a titan, and don't stop speaking truth to power. Thank you.